of traders are asking themselves that. Is the bottom in for Bitcoin? Has the recent dump since the all-time highs we saw back in mid-March, has that recent dump seen its bottom? And you'll see any number of silly technical analysis goofiness pointing to previous bull run markets and pullbacks that were experienced during those markets and saying, oh, the average dump is X%. Price has nothing to do with it. It's the returns. And whether or not the bull run, which is really just a silly word for the buy pressure, is over or has just started or is in the thick of it, or whether or not the sell pressure, which people call a dump, has bottomed out, has run out of steam, has really nothing to do with the price action. It's all about the returns. And what do returns do? Returns move away from the mean, and then returns mean revert. That's it, that's all they do. Returns mean revert, you can count on it. Is Bitcoin mean reverting to any particular mean? Well, yes, as I've said many times over the past 8 weeks or so, since around early March, and around mid-March it was confirmed. Right, the asset is in mean reversion. To where, you ask? To the 30-12 RMLR on a 7-day time frame. Does it have to mean revert to it? It's going to. The probabilities are incredibly high that it will. You can take that to the bank, so to speak. You'll have much more likely probability of that happening than in many other goofy things people will literally take to the bank and even get money for from the bank. Yes, that's right, even the banks, a lot of them at the retail level, who have retail level trained employees, will make goofy mistakes. Not all of them are high-end professionals who've worked in HFT firms or algo shops and necessarily understand volatility, entropy, probabilities, and statistics. And for that matter, if you'll notice, K through 12 education in America and much of the industrialized world and the rest of the world does not in fact include classes on learning about those things, notably volatility, entropy, probabilities, and statistics. Why would that be the case? Because the systems of education, educational systems, would rather that people are trained to be factory workers. Yes, even in the middle of the 21st century, that is still the mindset of the people that manage and administer the education systems. Right? Why is that the case? Well, because they are dinosaurs. They move incredibly slowly. A lot of them have poor funding and resources, so they're not even capable of hiring teachers competent enough to teach this stuff. And there's a lot of reasons why people wouldn't want to teach this stuff. Greed being one of them. Right? Power another. Anyway, so, has Bitcoin bottomed? Well, the answer is very likely not. Does that mean it's going to dump right away? Also unlikely. Is it possible that the bottom was it? Yes, it's possible. Is it also possible that there'll be another little dump? Yeah. In fact, that's highly probable unless the asset completes the mean reversion, going sideways from here with absolutely no movement down below where we've already been, right? Or even potentially completes the mean reversion on the 7-day time frame to the 30-12 RMLR by going to the upside, which is entirely possible. If you look at the 30-12 RMLR on the 7-day time frame, you'll notice a whole bunch of things about how it's going moving forward over the next 30 weeks. If you look at the 1110 RMLR superimposed on the same chart, you'll notice a lot of other interesting things, like where is it likely to have these various mean reversions? Where are these guideposts? What is it likely to do in moving in between all of these things back and forth? And if you look at, for example, the daily time frame, you'll see very clearly what is it probably going to do over the coming days and weeks, and where that means it is likely to have that intersect, that mean reversion completion. I've been saying for a long time, by, or maybe sooner than, but by late May, it is entirely possible, or even by late June when the RMLR will be at around 60K, but it certainly could happen in May, especially after the dumps we've seen so far. Right, by late May, maybe even sooner, we could see that mean reversion complete. In fact, at the recent low of the recent dump, it came within just 8K, which isn't all that much. So if it did fall that far down and hit it and mean revert to there on this weekly, on the 6% from the high, something like that, that would also be well within the probabilities, because that's again a price dump. It has nothing to do with what really matters, which is the returns. Once the asset completes that mean reversion to the RMLR on the 7-day time frame, then it will do what it does whenever it completes a mean reversion. We'll make the next move. Whether it makes it immediately or takes some time, it will do it. It will eventually move away from that RMLR. And the question is, will it move away from it by going up, down, or sideways? And you can say, well, you said that in every instance, it can always go up, down, or sideways. Correct, because an asset can always go up, down, or sideways. There are always probabilities involved. You need to understand which probabilities are more likely, which ones are less likely, and understand that within the context of knowing the small little detail, how it's working on the low time frames, because that's where the changes happen, and all the way up to the high time frames to get a sense of how that all fits into the bigger picture. So while you look at the high time frames to get the big picture and comprehend how things move at a macro level, if you are an intraday volatility trader, you're certainly not trading on the very high time frames. You're trading on low time frames, and you see where the changes are happening on the low time frames, and you see over time that those impact the higher time frames, because that's what establishes the higher time frames. So, are we likely to see the price just zoom to the upside from here? No, not really likely. Could it happen? Is there a tiny probability that it could happen? Yes, of course there is. That's why day traders, or intraday traders, or what you want to call yourself, low time frame traders of volatility, do not sit in swing positions. Rather, they take their profits early enough and they limit their loss, and they're not emotionally attached to their trade, because the price is moot. What matters are the returns. So, again, is Bitcoin at a point now where we can say it has bottomed? And once again, remind you, no, we're not. It may have bottomed, but that is certainly not set in stone. In fact, there's a fairly high probability that for now, it is not done bottoming. Currently, the RMLR to which it is in mean reversion to is down at around 46K or something. Next week, it will be at around 49K on the next 7-day candle, which is, by the way, close to where the 30 length power mean on smoothing length 10 will be. So if it does hit that, it will be a very nice mean reversion completion that will also set in motion a mean reversion back to the upside once it stops slamming through the third band down of the 1110 RMLR, which it would do if it were to jump down to complete the mean reversion in the next candle, or even in this one, or even in the next one after that. So, like I said, for now, it is not a done deal that it has bottomed out. There's a high probability it will complete that mean reversion at some point in May, if not by late June. And at that point, it'll be a wise thing to look for the next move it'll make on that particular time frame. And of course, also look for the mean reversions on all the other time frames, because guess what? That type of thing happens on every time frame, including the very low ones, which is where low time frame volatility traders trade. So that's it for now. Happy trading.